Disclaimer, all clips used in this video fall under fair use and all characters, photos, clips and music shown are not owned by the Super Origami universe unless stated otherwise. And warning, the following video is exaggerated for the purpose of entertainment. There will be less swearing and a few rage-inducing moments. If you like this following program, that is fine with us. We can tolerate your opinion and we can handle your thoughts. Without further ado,
let's go!
And another disclaimer, we apologize for the blurry footage, but we had to do it for copyright purposes. We hope you understand. Okay, let us begin.
tonight, a sequel that never should have been made ruins a franchise, and the consequences for this blunder.
Hello guys, Jurassic is back, and let's just say, I am not looking forward to reviewing this next piece of garbage. Oh, my aching head. Let's just get to this topic quickly, and see who else is coming.
I have returned once again for another review, and oh, this movie is even worse than some of the other bad movies we've talked about here. Just don't expect me to yell and rage like I did in the past.
Hey Aster, how are you doing?
I'm just ready to discuss the topic of this video. I'd rather not try and prolong the inevitable. Anyway, what's the main topic of this video? Well, let's get to it.
Today's topic is about a company I grew up with since the days of when I was younger. A rival company to Disney called DreamWorks. This studio gave us some famous franchises like Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, Puss in Boots, How to Train Your Dragon, etc. Other DreamWorks movies you have include Monsters vs. Aliens, Captain Underpants, Over the Hedge, Madagascar, and of course, Megamind. This being one of the more underappreciated films the company has to offer, and has gained a cult following thanks to a handful of memes. But in all seriousness, the first movie itself had such a great story, memorable characters, and amazing animation that looked ahead of its time. You had Will Ferrell as the titular blue alien mastermind himself, and many more talented actors who were also in this film. At the end of the film, Megamind stops Titan and becomes the savior of the city. Then you get a short sequel, but a worthy one. Megamind, the Button of Doom. The actors even reprised their roles. I honestly liked that one. But 14 years later, what happens when you take the legacy and everything on what made the first Megamind great, then just destroy it all and retcon a lot of key elements? Reduce the budget greatly, then release it on the streaming services. You get Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate. When the promotional trailers first released on TV, people around the entire internet were not happy with how the final result was, bombing it and complaining how awful it was going to be. And when they saw the full thing for the first time, they were right, calling it inferior to the first one. It wasn't made by DreamWorks themselves, but instead, it was made by DreamWorks Animation Television. They are known to make shows based on the movies from popular franchises. You got some really good ones like Penguins of Madagascar, which I grew up watching, and a whole lot more. But then you have these lesser known shows, most notably Megamind Rules, which, by the way, is set after the events of Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate. But I'm here to talk about the movie, if you can even call it that. Honestly, it feels more like an extended TV episode than an actual movie. Let's get into the movie itself. To be honest, I am not in the mood to rage this time, judging by the pain I am in. So I will be more calm and collected for this one. If I can, I will try. Anyway, this is Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, a TV show pilot crashing into Calamity. Oh, where do I even begin with this? I have never been in this much pain when I first watched this the day it came out. It's like a similar case to Surf's Up 2 where the budget has been greatly reduced, characters get recast and flanderized, and has a horrendous plot. Just look at the animation quality. It looks like something out of a cheap-looking PS1 cutscene. Maybe I'm just exaggerating, but in my opinion, even PlayStation cutscenes look so much better. Don't get me wrong, I have seen people on the internet make much better high-quality animated videos. You can even notice this judging by seeing some of the many errors, unfinished graphics, and animation clipping. You can easily tell how lazy they went with this. Even the awful Megamind video game, it had much better cutscenes that looked movie quality. And the character models in this film, ugh. They look very creepy and uncanny to look at.
And I thought that Shark Tale had uncanny looking faces, but at least when you look at Shark Tale, you can easily take screenshots of those faces and make memes out of them. That being said, let us begin with the story.
So the story begins with a quick recap of the first movie, and right off the bat, they use recycled footage from the first movie. And Megamind, let me just start by saying this does not sound like Will Ferrell at all. The new voice just sounds terrible when you compare him to Will Ferrell's performance. His replacement is Keith Ferguson. Anyway, the story actually takes place just 2 days after Megamind and Megamind the Button of Doom. For a quote movie that came out 14 years later, I was expecting it to take place much longer than that. Anyway, back to topic. We get this aquarium scene, and the film introduces us to a gang of villains. The names are, get this, the Go Fish Gang.
Really? Naming the secondary villains of this movie and the show after a deck of cards and dressing them up as fish? That's just lame.
Their designs alone also make them look like rejected codename Kids Next Door villains. Anyway, they burst into the aquarium to steal a diamond-encrusted koi, which looks like it has diamonds glued into its skin. Megamind and Minion jump in to stop the fish guys, but take a listen to what Minion says.
Quick correction there. Due to a cease and desist order from popular fast food chain Mr. Minion's Meatsicles, I can no longer call myself Minion. So, Megamind gave me a new name. Old Chum. It means old friend.
They changed his name to Old Chum. My only assumption is that it has to do with having the same name as the Yellow Pill guys from the Despicable Me franchise, so they gave him a name change.
Just goes to show how easily companies can be influenced by merchandising. Seriously, that statement from Minion feels like a thinly veiled attempt to make sure that some fans don't get confused by the name of the character due to the minions from Despicable Me. And, since both DreamWorks and Illumination are owned by Universal, it's not copyright problems with the name, it's just DreamWorks trying to avoid getting people confused about the minions from Despicable Me.
I will say, the name change could have worked had there been a more proper explanation, and the name would have made even more sense if Megamind treated him like an actual friend, like in the original movie, which we will get to later on. Anyway, we get a shitty CGI shark that looks even worse than the shark from Jaws the Revenge. It gets dehydrated, and the chase scene ensues. Megamind stops the fish guys, complete with horrible puns. So we cut to the next day, where we are introduced to Roxanne Ritchie, the love interest of Megamind.
Or at least she would be if her character wasn't derailed and she wasn't a complete jerk to Megamind at times.
To be fair, she always had to put up with his stupidity throughout this movie and show, so can you blame her? Anyway, we are introduced to possibly the most annoying character in this film. If you don't know, her name is Keiko. She just so happens to appear in a lot of situations so she can keep the plot going forward. Now we see Megamind give out his speech, and this is where we start to see him treat Minion horribly and act like a jerk to him and Roxanne. Wait a minute. Why is he doing this to him again? Didn't he already learn the lessons from what he did in the first movie? Well, they just had to throw it all in the trash and make him have even more of an ego. Now we cut to the villains of the movie.
First of all, their group name is not only boring but also uninspired. The Doom Syndicate looks like DC's Legion of Doom, Marvel's Sinister Six, or any fictional supervillain team tried way too hard to be edgy, but it fails miserably. As for the actual characters themselves, they're even worse. Lady Doppler and Pierre Pressure are bland and generic, Behemoth is an unfunny comic relief, and Lord Nighty Night not only has a dumb name, but he's a combination of bland, generic, and unfunny all at once.
When have I ever heard of the Doom Syndicate? Oh wait, they stole a similar idea of the Doom Syndicate from the Megamind video games. Wow! Talk about lazy and unoriginal. Looking back at the games, this group at least tried to be original and were much more of a threat. And Titan was a much bigger threat in the original movie. We could have had that group, but what we got are these generic villains. Anyway, thinking that Megamind is still the villain, they break out of prison in the most generic ways possible. They meet up with Megamind in an inferior version of his lair, and they go out on a destruction spree in an empty Metro City. Now, I have to ask, where is the population of Metro City? Did Thanos snap half the population from existence? And why do the building textures look incomplete?
Because of a combination of a small budget and low quality, this is why. Plus, you could also argue that the animators got lazy. I can't believe I had to say this, but The Boss Baby, Home, B-Movie, the Trolls movies, Shrek the Third, and especially Shark Tale are way better than this cinematic disaster, and that's really sad. The TV show, Megamind Rules, looks no better, and since we're exposed to laziness for longer, one could argue that it's even worse.
Which is also backed by the fact that we got robotic-looking animation in both this and the show. It's almost on par with Food Fight's animation. Anyway, the Doom Syndicate now challenges Megamind to rob a bank to prove he is still evil, with pressure going on inside of him. Keiko just so suddenly pops out of nowhere to help stage a fake robbery. How does this character keep showing up out of the blue? I can't. My brain is going haywire. Chum/Minion, meanwhile, is inside of a crummy diner that looks like a post-apocalypse had happened.
Lazy animation strikes again, and Keiko just continues to be little more than a Mary Sue character who exists to be the embodiment of perfection. Which, if you couldn't tell, I dislike it when characters are literally made to be perfect and have no flaws. It doesn't make them fun role models for little kids. It makes them bland and boring.
Even villains getting hero arcs are more interesting than Mary Sue characters. These include stories such as Loki's arc from villain to hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, ruin Despicable Me, the titular bad guys in The Bad Guys, or, oh, I don't know, Megamind in the first movie. You know, the reason why this movie and the follow-up show exists to begin with.
You do make an interesting point, but let's move on to the next scene.
As you wish. Anyways, the next key moment is when Megamind's lair is now a full-on disco room, with the Doom Syndicate throwing a big party with the population of Metro City inside. The fish guys show up and try to tell our villains the truth about what he really is, but Megamind resorts to distracting them with dance-off moves and dehydrates them. This could have also been a great opportunity for Megamind to use his most overpowered weapon against the Doom Syndicate, but he doesn't because of his sheer stupidity of not doing so. This could have ended up like this from much earlier.
On here! Be gone from my lair, Doom Goons! Hello, old friend.
Yeah, just like that. But sadly, that is from one of the TV episodes. So the next day, Megamind reveals an abandoned plan to launch Metro City to space and onto the moon, which is Phase 2. Since when did Megamind build all these under the city? And the Doom Syndicate starts to see something is up with them. And this is starting to feel like it's ripping something off, which we will get to later on. Moving on, we see that the restaurant is now more colorful and lively, which is now a donut store. Megamind and Roxanne arrive to reunite with Minion, but are unable to enter. That is until once again, Keiko pops up Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare style. And once again, she is nothing more than a plot device. But once they get in, Megamind still feels that Minion belongs in the donut store before leaving. How many times are you going to mistreat Minion? The selfish piece of shit scumbag.
Megamind then meets up with the Doom Syndicate again, and what happens again? I forgot, because I literally did not care for the events of the movie.
Let's just say that they found out that he was really a hero all along thanks to the fish gang getting rehydrated. And the villains gang up on him and blast him to smithereens. Seriously, I have never hated a movie or product this much since Jurassic World Dominion, which is my most hated film ever. Anyway, Megamind survives the blast and goes into hiding, giving up hope. Roxanne and the plot device girl find Megamind with a fake beard and mustache. They give him an encouraging speech and Chum appears out of the blue. This actually played out better in the first movie, so why do we have to go through this again? Oh wait, just to rehash everything. Now we get a montage between the Doom guys struggling with breaking through the door and Megamind and co going to a supermarket. At the break-in through the door, the Doom Syndicate activates the button to launch Metro City to space, which will launch in several minutes. And now we get to the climax.
Hold on. A city getting launched high in the sky by technology? Now, where have we seen this before? Oh yes, in a ton of other superhero plot lines, and as such this climax comes across as cliche and uninspired.
Seriously, they just had to rip off a better movie for this?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea how this looks?
It is clear to me that they had run out of ideas for this. As the final battle ensues, Megamind and Roxy shoot tennis ball launchers of all things that they could have invented, which somehow works against the Doom guys, while Minion takes on the Fish guys 1 against 3. Like, how? Just look at the rendering of these tennis balls as they just pop out. It's like they were too lazy to properly show them coming out of the nozzles. And as the countdown reaches 0, the entire city goes up into space. And I forgot to mention, when Minion went through the vents, the brain bots did not recognize him when they should have. So why the fuck did they think he was a threat? Did the Doom guys reprogram them? Anyway, Roxanne and the plot device girl tell the citizens to find shelter even though they are on a levitating city. How do you even find shelter in a situation like this? I can't anymore.
Minion, meanwhile, even without his suit, defeats the card game gang and presses the button that deactivates the jets, and the city plummets back down to Earth. Now this really has turned into the climax of Age of Ultron!
Words just cannot describe how I feel about this climax. They just genuinely do not care about what they have ripped off at all. Generic-looking villains launching a city to the skies, Marvel style. Anyway, the whole city begins to crash back to Earth. Megamind and the Doom Syndicate engage in their final battle, while at the same time, he creates a parakeet off-screen for Minion. Your way to appreciate your friend who has been with you since childhood comes too late, doesn't it? Anyway, back to the final battle. The Doom guys all suffer humiliating defeats. Bon Voyage gets cement poured onto him. Doppler gets zapped by her own electricity. The Lava Skylander gets run over by a fire truck driven by Roxanne. And finally, remember that flash grenade Megamind gave Keiko earlier from near the beginning of the movie? She uses the flash grenade he gave her to defeat Nighty Night. Complete with a god-awful pun that even makes every ice pun cringe.
Nighty night.
That final line from Keiko was cringe incarnate.
This goes to show how awful all the jokes in this movie, yes, including the show, are awful and have no punchline. Anyway, with the villains defeated, our heroes, including the parakeet brainbot, whose name is Polly227, all pulled the lever to safely land the city back in place. The mayor, however, scolds them for putting it backwards until Roxanne proves she can do better as mayor of Metro City. And her election happened in one day. Like, how? I just don't care anymore because we are at the end where our protagonists say that bad guys look out for themselves while they look out for each other. Oh wait, this is not the end because we cut back to the Doom Syndicate back in prison and what the fuck is that? This looks like a floating holographic brain creature whose name is Machiavillain. And he was Megamind's former mentor who taught him everything in villain school? Okay, this just totally retconned everything that happened in the first movie. And this is where the rest of the TV show starts since this was all a TV show pilot. Though the only positive I have is, I hate to admit it, is the intro of Megamind rules. That's it. Everywhere else in this show is just as bad as or worse than the pilot itself, depending on your view.
Okay, so that's Nevermind versus the Noob Syndicate, and we're not gonna bother discussing Megamind rules either. Mainly because most of the criticisms with the show also apply to this movie as well. However, we can discuss the characters from both of them, and I'm not looking forward to that. Nope, not at all.
Since almost every single character has been ruined in this mega mind wreck of a movie and show, we shall be going over the characters and their new voice actors. But thank God they didn't ruin Titan since they didn't put him in the show. Anyways, let's go over the list. Starting the list off with Minion/Old Chum. Obviously, he is the least awful in this film alongside Roxanne. He can even be seen as sympathetic at times due to how abusive Megamind is towards him at times. That being said, he was still derailed in this film, from his unnecessary name change to his incompetence and his unfunny jokes. But once again, he still has some good qualities, so he's the least bad character of the bunch. Laura Post as Roxanne, who in fact also voices Fubuki in One Punch Man, Kasumi from Persona, and Yunaka from Fire Emblem. She's not exactly as terrible compared to some of the other characters, but she was still flanderized in this mess of a film, especially with her being pushed to be the smartest character in the series, which can be annoying at times. Combined with the fact that she can be unfairly mean to Megamind at times. But compared to some of the other characters, she's remained untouched by comparison. Where do I even begin with this one? For starters, she's a Mary Sue. If you don't know, a Mary Sue is a character, usually a young woman, who can do no wrong and is written to be perfect in the eyes of the characters, and anyone who dislikes her is seen as an awful person. And she's also inconsistent as well. One movie she's unable to recognize Minion, the next she's seen as smarter than the main cast. So yeah, that alone makes her unbearable.
Oh boy, the mayor. What happened with this guy? I'll tell you. For starters, Roger Craig Smith doesn't even try to sound like the character from the OG film. Next, there's the fact that his character development, where he grew to respect Megamind in the first film, that's all undone here, and he's just seen as a rude and lazy jerk. He's also a hypocrite, since despite calling out Megamind for failing to protect Metro City, he himself failed to do the same, so he has no right to judge Megamind. And while I can sometimes tolerate a villain being a hypocrite in media, keep in mind that he's not a villain, so his hypocrisy is all the more annoying as a result.
I will also say that Roger Craig Smith is just better off voicing the Blue Hedgehog, Sonic. No offense to him though. Mr. Donut. I don't have much to say about him, other than he was there to sell donuts. And in the show, he gets turned into a villain because of getting amnesia. I just don't care about the character. Next.
I just have to say, what did they do to Metro Man? I'm sorry for that outburst, but still, why did they change his character? His design change is alright, I guess, but all of a sudden, the fact that he has stage fright is just appalling. Seriously, Metro Man in the first film was shown to enjoy the spotlight when he was the superhero of Metro City. Yet all of that is gone now for no reason. Pointless retcon after pointless retcon, am I right? Anyways, I think I made it very clear what I think about this depiction of Metro Man, so let's move on.
This brain bot was only created just to serve as a last-minute plot device, just so it can help save the day and act as the pet for Chum. But did it appear again in the show? Vaguely. Just to be rewired by Machiavillain and serve his evil doings. So there really isn't much to discuss with this character, so let's move on. The Doom Syndicate. Oh boy, where do I even begin?
Let's start with their names. Jesus Christ, their names suck. Lady Doppler is just a creatively bankrupt name with no effort, and her character isn't any better due to how generic she is. Pierre Pressure is also a lame name. Oh, and in some ways, he's a straight-up copycat of a minor villain from The Incredibles. Bon Voyage! Seriously, just look at them and tell me that one of them isn't inspired by the other. Overall, he's unnecessary and completely unfunny.
Next we have Lord Nighty Night. Not only is that name just stupid, but it's also creatively bankrupt and his character is no better. Plus, his running gag of being clingy with a teddy bear is not funny and repetitive. Sure, there might be some who like him, but personally, we don't. And finally, Behemoth. This guy has the least bad name of the bunch, and the fact that he's a big lava monster means that his design being this simple is forgivable. But the problem is that his character is a comic relief character, where lava golems should be intimidating and scary rather than a goofball. His defeat is also the lamest, as he gets run over by a fire engine, and that's it. Todd Habercorn, Eric Murphy, and Joey Rudman as the Goldfish Gang. They serve no purpose to this film and are completely pointless, And they make Prince Charming from Shrek the Third sound genius. Next! Oh my lord, this ugly looking character. Who even thought that this was a good idea to make this design? What purpose did this guy truly serve in the show? He just looks like a rejected fanboy and Chum Chum character.
Sure, he was made to be hated, but he was also hated for reasons outside of their intentions. First off, the name. Dude Monkey. That is one of the dumbest names I've ever heard. Not only that, but the name itself is also...
Lame.
Secondly, you'll never believe what his purpose is. Why, he's a social media influencer, of course! And we all know how likable those are. All I can say is that he's only in Megamind Rules and literally nowhere else. Next! The only good thing about Machiavillain is the scene where he sings in the second half of the first season of Megamind Rules, since Adam Lambert had put more effort in the singing department, but that's his only good quality, and the fact that Adam Lambert did a good job voicing the character, I guess. Aside from that, this uninspired villain fucking sucks! Especially given that not only do both of his designs suck, but he's a blatant retcon. He's made to have been the guy who taught Megamind the ways of villainy, when that was never established in the first film. Not to mention, both of his designs are incredibly ugly. His true form in particular just looks horrible. Overall, a character who serves as little more than a retcon to the story, with a butt-ugly look, and we got one of the worst characters in the series. But there is one character who is worse.
And I have just saved the worst for last. The worst character in this quote-unquote film and TV series is none other than the titular blue alien mastermind himself. Keith Ferguson as Megamind.
Look how they massacred my boy.
If you thought Cody's character assassination in Surf's Up 2 was bad enough, you have seen nothing yet. Megamind went from being a goofy yet competent and intelligent character that we all loved back then to a completely immature, dim-witted, selfish asshole, treating Minion and all other characters like dirt. All the development from the first movie thrown away into the garbage. And he gave out that infamous line where he says that me is one of my favorite things in the world. This goes to show how narcissistic and self-centered he has become.
I thought heroes were supposed to be selfless. Sure, there are some heroes that do have an ego, such as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man from Marvel, but even he isn't as arrogant as Megamind is in this disgrace of a movie.
Sure, Mr. Stark had an ego, but deep down he actually cared about all those around him. But Megamind, meanwhile, he never learned a lesson in this TV show pilot, which carried over in Megamind Rules, where he's even more dumbed down. And as bad as his character assassination is, he was still much better in the original film.
This is a big example of character flanderization, where Megamind's ego and vanity being his only defining character traits, and combined with the fact that a lot of his character development in both the first movie and Button of Doom are undone for no reason, makes him an unlikable character. I mean, you wouldn't think they could assassinate Megamind's character, right? Well, what do you know? They can! Alright, enough is enough. Let's just get to the final verdict.
Final verdict on this monstrosity of a film and series. Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate is the biggest cinematic disaster in the DreamWorks Studios library of films. A massive disgrace to all nostalgic Megamind fans everywhere. This is everything on what tarnished the legacy of the original film by taking away everything of what made the original film great. The only thing good about this is that it made me watch the original again, which is 100 times better. I rate this and Megamind Rules a 0 out of 10. Avoid these at all costs. And to summarize my whole thoughts on everything that I said about this garbage, there is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate. And now, I have a punishment for this movie and show prepared for this. I hereby sentence them to be shot with the dehydration gun!
Also, this is the only intentional reference to Schafrillas Productions in this video. Everything else in this video we came up with by ourselves. With that said, let's just get this movie and the show dehydrated already so we can get this over with.
Megamind.
Good riddance to that movie. This has to be one of the most unbearable things I have ever seen in my life. But before we end this, is there anything you want to say?
Just one thing. We do not recommend the movie or the show for that matter. Both of them are worse than most of the stuff we have reviewed thus far. Although one show that we will review later is far worse than Megamind Rules. Oh, and also, look forward to future reviews as well as various forms of content on my channel as well. Catch you guys later!
I am just glad this is all over. But it's still not as bad as a certain animated show I saw way before this one came out. Please, for the love of God, just do yourselves a favor and never watch Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate or Megamind Rules. Or you will end up like me. You will be having a bad time. Just watch the original Megamind movie and the Button of Doom instead. Those are so much better than those pieces of trash. If it was made by DreamWorks themselves and took more time developing it, then maybe it would have been so much better. Anyway, with all that said, I have to get back home and recover now. So thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel for more upcoming content, and I will see you in another video.
The end.